American Airlines pilots have voted to allow their labor union to call for a strike.
Yesterday, pilots protested at 10 U.S. airports. The airline says it is close to an agreement. It released a statement that said, in part, quote, "The finish line is in sight. We understand that a strike authorization vote is one of the important ways pilots express their desire to get a deal done, and we respect the message of voting results."
Consumer travel reporter for USA Today, Zach Wichter, joins us now, or Wichter. Southwest pilots are also considering a strike. What impact would this have? Two major airlines on travel.
Sure, that's a great question. So obviously, if the pilots at both of these airlines went on strike, that would have a huge impact. Like you said, they're two of the biggest airlines in the country. However, it's important to keep in mind that these strikes are actually extremely unlikely. We see this all the time with pilot union contract negotiations. Pilots almost always vote to authorize a strike just as a way to message to the airline management that they are prepared to do that and they're taking these negotiations seriously. But there are a lot of steps between voting on the strike and a strike actually happening. And they pretty much, to my knowledge, never actually happen. It's more of a messaging technique than a real threat at the moment.
Zach, it seems like these strikes are always coinciding right ahead of a busy travel season. In this case, it would require permission from the Federal National Mediation Board. Tell us what they're weighing and what that process really looks like.
Yeah, as you said, there are a lot of steps between the vote to authorize a strike and the strike actually happening. So the main thing really that has to happen is the negotiations between management and the pilots over their contract would need to break down. And so the mediation board actually doesn't step in until the parties are unable to come to any kind of resolution or contract agreements by themselves. So there's a breakdown step, there's the board stepping in, there's a cooling off period. The president at that point is free to appoint his own mediators. There also may be an arbitration phase. So there are a lot of different steps along the way before legally pilots, even if they've authorized a strike, before they can actually take that action.
You know, it seems from what I'm hearing that American Airlines seem optimistic. What's the over-under on the negotiations being done in time or the deal getting done in time?
Sure. I don't know about the exact timeline off the top of my head, but what I will say is Americans' competitors both have recently ratified contracts with their pilots. So United, just about a year ago, ratified a contract with its pilots. A few months ago, Delta ratified a contract with its pilots. Both of those airlines granted their pilots big raises and also improvements in working conditions. I would be very surprised if American doesn't kind of just have to match the market on this. And so I think that on both sides of the table, they're pretty clear about what's going on and where this is headed.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that, if I can follow up, Zach, because when you're mentioning the competitors, United and Delta, I'm wondering if the American pilots went on strike, what impact that would have as people then maybe move their travel plans to one of these other carriers.
Sure. Again, I really want to emphasize that this strike is extremely unlikely. We are a long way away from that potentially happening. But yeah, that's a good question. If the pilots did go on strike, it would be a huge disruption to American Airlines operations and would definitely provide an opening for some of Americans' competitors to pick up market share.
All right, Zach Wichter, thank you.
Thank you.